fights was a bit of a nuisance. Let's just try and get it off the board.
I will say, if you go Ornn though, Ornn is more punishable as a blind pick than Sion is. Sion and Ksante, I think, are more difficult to actually punish. So it'll be interesting. Maokai, would give JDG some hard lockdown here for this Ahri that Yagao has slammed out. We also have to remember Vi unbanned this time around. So Vi Ahri is available for Shun and Yagao if they want to look towards it.
Yeah, also gives the opportunity now to go for some sort of AD mid if you really want to here. And the Kennen being taken off the board kind of limits the AP top laners that you can go for. Gwen obviously still available, but I still think locking in your AD carry here probably going to be the best, especially when Ruler popped off on the, well, just in the last game in general. I think just securing that AD carry that you'd like in the Aphelios is going to be a good call.
Yeah, I mean, you can pretty much fill in any ADC for Ruler. Ruler popped off on the, well, actually everything. Every one of these played, pretty much.
It's a Mad Lib. You just list AD carry champion here, it'll work itself out. Okay, so Jinx going to be the option this time around. Bit of a call out, see how Elk wants to respond. Again, the Vi you highlighted, Vi Ahri to me, the strongest mid-jungle duo in terms of reliable execution. I feel like you're just guaranteed to get kills with these champions.
I think it's probably just Vi Aphelios, right? Like it seems like the most obvious answer here. Would mean you're going to get banned down as far as jungle picks do go, but this feels very, very obvious. And now my question is, do you want to actually match jungle? Ksante, I think this is actually even better.
I think the thing though is now you get to get rid of like the Tam Kenshin stuff if you're BLG and just make life very uncomfortable for Ruler in these fights. You've already got the great dive threat coming through, so just making sure that you can double down on that is going to be a great call here for BLG.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, you could obviously ban like Lulu and Tahm Kench or something like that, but there still are other picks that can work really well. Missing obviously can still play engaged. I do think you can look towards things like Renata. Personally, I'm a fan of Renata against some of these heavy dive comps. Sure, the Vi is going to be ulting in, but you throw the Renata ult to actually cover on that, and it's difficult for people to follow up. So I think there are a lot of options. Gwen makes sense again as a ban, especially if JDG is just going to blind a tank top. Potentially, or if they're going to be sending this Ksante top.
Yeah,
it's kind of interesting.
Will Knight play Ksante mid? That's the question. It's kind of, you have to prove it if you haven't shown it before that it is a flex pick for your team. Might not have to here. It is 369's most played champion, but again, it depends on what Ben is going to have to be walking blind until they lock in a mid lane champion, uncertain of which solo lane this Ksante is going to go to.
Yeah, I will say Knight has had a very wide champion pool coming into this bit, like things like Lee Sin, the Kassadin, and we saw him bring out the Nautilus as well already, so I definitely think he's going to be willing to play this. Knight has always been very, very good at being able to bring out a lot of these picks. But even if you bring it up to the top lane, I mean, it's a nearly 82% win rate. Most played for 369 in the top lane. He's been very, very good at this champion, so it's kind of a win-win regardless.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely assuming it's going to be up for 369, but as you say, Knight had 18 different champions that he played in the LPL. This guy will basically play everything, play anything. Braum, nice defensive pick here. So it's not going to be the Enchanter option, but it will be the Braum instead. Can definitely make those dives a little bit more difficult to pull off, especially if he wants to play Exhaust, which I wouldn't be surprised by.
And as you go later and later into the game, Braum's Unbreakable is one of the most high-value abilities in the game in terms of being able to block Elk's potential damage output. The concussive blows as well when you have champions like Maokai and Ksante. The reliable lockdown for a champion as mobile as Ahri. If you ever land a single stack is big, but of course, that said, it's not the traditional super strong engaged support, and it's still not as strong at disengage as something like a Lantern or a Tahm Kench Devour, so you need to find a way to get that impact. The Alistar coming in for On. Very, very aggressive champion.
Very surprised to see it though. I mean, Braum is the regular go-to counter against the Alistar, right? Because as soon as he goes in, you just stick up your shield and not really much damage can come back. And you're even able to lock him up as well as he tries to step away. So kind of surprised to see that one come through, but it does feel like for BLG, they're just like, hey, we're going to double down on going all in on this just dive comp. Here we go!
There it is!
Yeah, Gigabin is back, locking in the carries here. So it is going to be Fiora, so very, very high barrier of execution here. You've got to play this really well for, so it is going to be Ksante mid. So this is what I was kind of wondering about, like were they just going to lock another tank for 369 on the top side? No, it is going to be the Renekton. This is a matchup we've seen so many times. It really does come down to the parry timing, especially in the early game. It's about anticipating that empowered stun coming through from the Renekton, being able to get those parries down on it. Because there's a lot of gank assists here from the Renekton and the Maokai. If you mistime your parry, you're a pretty easy kill.
And we have seen games from Bin where you absolutely take over on this Fiora, but the most recent game that I can remember is the game that he played in the finals, where he was a side lane monster, sure, but could do nothing to stop his team from losing the game. That is the nature of this pick, is it's going to be everything or nothing. Instead of the junglers this time, it's top lane that has to be the focus.
Well, and that had kind of been the story of both of their best of fives, is that Bin would go towards these carry picks. He would get a lot of jungle help from Shun. Sometimes he would create big individual advantages. Sometimes it would be really interesting. And let's be honest, very few games ever end through side lane anymore. It's like 1 in a million, it feels like, in pro play these days. So it's really not about like, it's the split push win condition where you're going to take on all the towers and destroy the Nexus. No, it's about getting pushed, creating a gold advantage, and then taking it to the team fight. You still kind of have to do that. And you need to have time to build up a couple items on Fiora before you can really have much of an impact in that team fight. So to me, the difficulty becomes, can you actually get an advantage on the bot side to take some dragons to stall so that your opponents can't just snowball towards a soul, which forces the Fiora to group earlier than she wants to.
And I think this is what's so tricky for BLG, is that they're consistently drafting these comps that have very clear but somewhat limited windows of opportunity or avenues to play through, whereas JDG, again, you draft Renekton, which you could consider a similar champion in terms of what it can offer, has some clear weaknesses, but I feel like overall their composition is just a bit more stable.
And I think that's where, if you want to try and find the disruption, it has to be through Shun and Yagao, right? Try and win out in the 2v2, immediately move that up towards top side, make sure that you're getting Bin fed, because as Azael was saying, if you don't have Bin really far ahead, it becomes very difficult to actually try and play out the game. Even when you look at like needing to take down early turrets, so Bin can actually have some sort of pressure. JDG though, coming on through.
Really just trying to consistently shake up the map. Not a Scion this time around, but as you highlighted, Braum level 1, one of the strongest in the game. Alistar level 1, not great, short of a 4 or 5 man pulverize. So just stolen away Raptor camp.
Bin is here. They're actually lane swapping. Bin is going to play mid on the Fiora into the Ksante, and they sent Ahri top. So it's going to be a Yagao laning top against the Renekton on this Ahri. So BLG really trying to throw a wrench in the gears here of JDG and try to get a different matchup. Put Fiora into this tank matchup. You know, you are expected to win this 1v1. How will Yagao perform on that top side, though, is the big question to me, because pre-6, Ahri is going to be super vulnerable to ganks.
Yeah, I think, as you say, yes, you can definitely put some pressure towards the top side, but even in mid, I feel like you're kind of all right here as Knight with the shorter lane.
Yeah.
It doesn't give Bin as much of an opportunity to go for these longer chase downs where you can proc multiple vitals and really get that damage down. So I'm kind of surprised, honestly, to see this one come through. It does make sense. Like, yes, it's an easier matchup for Bin, but not really getting the same punish as On.
Already on the bottom side of the map, On is in trouble! Alistar early game struggling here. I don't know how that happened, but I hope we get to see it in a replay, because that's a disaster.
The only way that ever happens is the age-old way, not respecting their faster level 2. I can pretty much guarantee you they were fighting for level 2. JDG got it faster because he didn't even blow his thumb, so he knew he was dead to rights. That speaks to, oh, I knew I made a big mistake here. I'm just going to have to accept it. So, you know, I want to see the replay, but I can pretty much guarantee you they were pushing for level 2 there.
Yeah, I don't need to see Twitch chat to know that they're spamming off in that one, but we'll have to see if maybe they can try and bring that one back, but it does make things a lot more difficult for Shun. We were talking about, hey, look, maybe you work through the mid-jungle, but you can't really play into bot, so instead he's going to run with the top side.
Yeah, and he can get over the wall here unspotted, but he's got to wait for that ball breaker cooldown. You can see 8 seconds remaining on it, so it is going to be a bit. Yagao's trying to keep this off the turret. 369 has to know that Vi could be in the area,
but the charm hits a minion. Yagao doesn't have the charm. He's got the double dash too, but he doesn't even need it. Quick kill back in response on the top side for BLG.
It's a bit of a lose-lose situation there for 369. That's where you just need to get your jungler up there, because you need to crash that wave. Otherwise, it just gets perma-frozen by Yagao and you lose out a huge amount. So, yes, he gives us life, but kind of has to, or else he ends up losing so much more.
Yeah, I mean, it is very difficult, right? You know, the reality is in that situation, you are in a tough spot. And you have to kind of just call your jungler up, because you can't actually fix the wave on your own safely. In this situation, you decide to just kind of flip it. I guess we're not going to get a replay of that bottom kill, unfortunately, so we're not going to see exactly what happened.
My assumption is that you broke it down so perfectly that they felt it was unnecessary.
Painted the picture. Great.
The only other thing that could have happened is Alistar randomly headbutted in for no reason, but I'm reasonably sure that is probably what you said.
You know, this is always a sad thing to see. If you are a BLG fan, you can see the massive discrepancy in the buy there. You know, Elk has not even been able to get back to base yet, and Ruler's now on a pickaxe. So, you know, you've given this guy who was so dominant in the last game, now a commanding position in the 2v2. And now really all Kanavi has to do is prevent additional ganks from coming in. As long as there's no interference, this 2v2 should be heavily favored for JDG.
It's always a terrifying prospect, especially against a Jinx, a champion who can shred through towers if she builds these big leads. And, you know, right now, BLG are kind of dictating a lot of the pace just based on the fact that they've swapped up and made these crazy lane assignments. But if Jinx gets ahead, you can just keep swapping her between every lane imaginable, take turrets left and right.
Well, the reality is, it's going to be way harder to convert the solo lane lead into a victory than it is to convert a lead for your Jinx into a victory, right? The composition that JDG has actually built up is very difficult to dive through. So yeah, there are a lot of these go buttons over on the BLG side, but you're going to be trying to dive through Maokai ult, Ksante, Braum ult, the wall, all of these tools that are going to be there to keep Ruler safe. So if you don't execute perfectly and Ruler doesn't insta-die, he's going to crush you.
Yeah, and I think that's where a lot of what BLG really want to do is, look, we're going to get control over this top side, get a Rift Herald, knock down some turrets, and then just try and find these picks before anything really kicks off at a team fight. Like, if you can get onto someone on JDG and burst them out beforehand, that's going to go great. But also, to Azael's point, it's a lot of beefy members on JDG, so it's going to be very hard to just find one of these guys and immediately burst them down unless you really snowball this game. And right now, BLG just don't really have the opportunities to try and snowball it.
Yeah. Divine Sunderer going to make everything a little bit easier for Ben, as currently he's leading in XP, as you can see on the left hand side of your screen. But until that item breakpoint is going to, you know, he can hit these vitals, but you just don't have as much pressure as you'd like, and certainly can't really snowball that advantage much further. But the wave coming in, Knight is kind of respecting it.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, we'll see how much of his farm Knight does pick up, but it is a CS advantage. As of now, 11 CS for Ben. Of course, there's a lot more to farm there for Knight, so it's going to even out quite a bit. But if Ben can just kind of have a free lane where he actually can't be ganked either, maybe they're feeling like, hey, we just need to get Ben into a comfortable position. Once he has a couple items, then we sound him out to the side lanes. You know, really just protect his early game here. And try to get him into a position to really succeed, because I do think his role in this game is going to be so critical if BLG are to win.
If they win, I just want to see how much damage Fiora Divine Sunderer did by the end of the game.
To towers, right?
No, because I feel like you can kill everybody.
It's the true test.
Okay, all right.
How many times did you proc your Demolish?
There's two. I'm excited. You're always excited about Hullbreaker. I'm excited about Divine Sunderer. We're both excited about very different items for this Fiora. Please no Hullbreaker. But we'll have to find out. For now, JDG keeping their priority on the bottom side of the map. The advantage that they built in isolation, just in the isolated 2v2, to help them secure this first dragon. Not going to be a Chemtech Soul, which is big for playing through the dragon as a win condition. Won't be Hextech either, which does hurt a bit.
Yeah, but I mean, really, all the other ones are all strong, right? So,
Sure.
so I don't think that there's any huge concern over on that side.
I think this does play into JDG's hands, though. The fact that you've now got an early dragon for yourselves, you can kind of go, hey, well, we can stack up towards this potential dragon fight and 3 and 4 drakes for ourselves. And even with the push that you have on bot side, you can see the reset coming through from Missing. There is an opportunity to try and move up towards this Rift Herald if you want to in 25 seconds time, but we'll have to see exactly if they want to try and go for that. At the moment, the wave is being pushed back out by Elkanon, so they'll actually probably be in a better spot if they just want to immediately run up to that. But with no items, you definitely need to buy here as well.
It's really atypical to see someone that hasn't gone back to lane for the first time, you know, this late into the game, right? He's 76 CS, has not actually gotten his first buy off yet, but that does speak to the tempo that JDG have had. They got that early kill, and Elka's been kind of locked under his tower since then, so he hasn't had those same buy timings that we'd normally look for. Nice charm from Yagao.
Used. Gonna try to stick on top of Yagao. Yagao, will he be forced to ult? I think that's the trade that 369 is looking for. If you can get Yagao to burn his ult, Herald is up and available. That'll significantly weaken his presence in the skirmish.
And you can see that's why Yagao is holding on to it. He's just waiting for the move speed from his W. Needed that to come back up because he knew that there's no more slice and dice available. Shun gets it, but can he actually take this? We'll see. On is here.
Elk getting the fight now kicked off. Alistar on the backside, pretty tanky. The knockup now coming through. Elk immediately going to cleanse it, trying to keep this fight going. Kanavi walking forward, trying to knock them back. The pullback is there. Vi now going in, but Ruler on the backside as well. And Ruler's just a little bit stronger. JDG again finding the fight, and the eye will go unpicked up by the side of BLG.
Elk gets clipped by Knight's knockback and immediately gets zapped and taken down. So at that stage, BLG just don't really have anything left in the tank, and an easy pickup for JDG. They deny the Herald as well.
Yeah, no eye from that really hurts. You know, Elk wanted to get aggressive, wanted to push in there. The sapling honestly caused a lot of issues there as they all tried to push past that pixel brush. Kanavi's sapling hits everyone with the empowered damage plus the slow. And as they're funneling in, as you say, Knight's able to actually clip him. We can watch this one more time. JDG showing up here. You know, BLG is ready to fight. They want to look for this, but just can't really get it done. The Maokai ultimate comes through, the cleanse is used on that, then the sapling slows both Elka and Shun. Actually, Gale Force in, gets flipped in, then Kanavi just jumps right in on him. An easy kill there, and again, completely untouched is Ruler. It has been the story of these first 2 games. He's able to do everything he wants.
And Ben didn't do anything in that fight. He doesn't do damage yet. The cooldowns aren't low enough for him to get into the back line. So while initially it looks like he might have some good access, the second JDG pull back into that pinch, the second they get the frontliners, as you talked about up there, he doesn't do enough damage to be a threat.
And that's why I don't really agree with them swapping the mid to top. I think they could have tried to play through Shun and Yagao, tried to have some pressure there and then lean that into their side lane and then give Bin the advantage that he needs. But without being able to try and play through that mid jungle, it feels like, well, you haven't really done anything in the mid. You're losing out heavily in bot. And in the grand scheme of things, 369's actually doing well into this range matchup.
Yeah, doing completely fine up there on the top side, down a couple CS. Did die to that one gank, but should be able to even this out largely. And I do think generally for Fiora, you don't really have much of an impact in a team fight until you have like 3 items, to be honest, is kind of generally how I feel. It's so difficult because you're so reliant on the parry, and until you have a lot of levels, the cooldowns start getting lower, where you can really kind of threaten some of these champions, even start to threaten the front line a little bit if they're kind of separated out from the team. Sometimes you can just get that kill with the ulti, get that heal down for your team, but it's going to be a really tough one, I think, again, for BLG, because it's just going to be the Ruler show. He already has his Gale Force completed here, pre-11 minutes, hasn't even cashed out the call, and he's already done that Mythic. He's going to be tough to get to.
There's nothing worse than resetting with 1 creep left in your call. That is so frustrating, but still, I mean, he's in a fantastic spot. It doesn't really matter too much. Demonic Embrace completed for Kanavi as well. Means when we get towards this Dragon in 50 seconds, they're being a great space to actually just go and fight this. And again, like Knight, completely fine in this mid lane to just keep trading against Bin, keep pressure up, and allow them to enter as they want into the bot side jungle.
Yeah, so much control, and love the heads-up play. You've got a very AD-heavy composition, so making sure that your Maokai is going to do at least some magic damage and make it that much harder for BLG to approach these objectives with no true tank. Yes, On has the ultimate, but not nearly the income necessary to fill that true tank position outside of use of the ultimate. Bin finally going to pick up the Sunder, and remember that the gold is still close, so it's ultimately on BLG to try to leverage the strengths that they do have. Maybe Bin a little bit stronger in the individual 1v1 now can start to push these advantages. Again,
the problem is, your advantage becomes about playing towards sides, right? And JDG, because they got the first dragon, they're going to show up very likely to the second dragon pretty much on spawn, try to push for that. And that's going to force Bin into grouping, right? That's going to force him into doing what he doesn't really want to do. He wants to have time to threaten towers, knock down these outers, and start to really extend a gold lead for himself.
It's also going to be really hard for BLG to try and contest this, right? You've got this great slow push in bot lane for JDG that, yes, they will be able to clear out with Inferno, but it means JDG can move over, and there's the TP. Ksante are in a position, Kanavi in a great spot as well. You're going to 369 resetting, looking to get the TP in himself.
Bin over the wall. Ready to get things started immediately on, gonna get the fight kicked off. They're trying to get to the back line, they're trying to take Ruler out already, but they're still standing, but no, finally cut down. They're finding the fight. Bin finding 2. It's massive for the side of BLG. They see their brief moment, they see their angle, and they delete 2 members of JDG.
That's a huge fight for BLG, executing it perfectly. Everyone gets in there onto Ruler, on with the perfect engage. Shun with the follow-up on the ulti. Yagao can come through, everyone piles in on Ruler. They do take him down, and that's exactly what they have to do if they're to win team fights, because he is really this sole source of damage over on the JDG side. Not everyone was really in position for JDG to actually peel, though, because 369 had not arrived yet, and that is why this just instant engage from On was so important.
Yeah, as you say, the fact that On gets in, this is 4 versus 5 at the moment. You got great positioning there for the Vi to follow up, and just a bit greedy from JDG. They didn't want to wait for 369 to try and come in and actually have a 5 versus 5, and BLG read it like a book.
Yeah, I mean, just now, 369 is arriving to the fight. It's already long over. He was TPing towards mid, didn't actually have a good TP ward to go to. And that is that kind of a little bit of overconfidence there from JDG, as you say. Walking in without the proper setup, not all 5 members were there. Once everyone is in on the Jinx, it is getting really, really rough. Because Ruler flashed out, but the Vial had already been used on him before he flashed. So Vi is coming with you, like it or not, at that point. And there was no one there to really peel the Vi as soon as she landed.
Yeah, it's kind of a case of if you can flash away from the immediate engage, great, but it's so hard when you're when On covers that distance that quickly. So BLG, really good job, and now getting a little bit of control back, right? You actually have some gold that you can try and use now, especially on towards Bin, who now has 2 kills. A Divine Sunder plus the Ravenous Hydra being worked towards as well with the Tiamat. He's in a great spot now to actually try and push in these side lanes. He's in a 20 CS lead, essentially, on that top side against 369.
On. X-Flash over the wall. Charm just going to go a little bit wide here, but it's a good point. The Tiamat going to make it that much easier for him to start grouping you know, can push in, can look to come out on top of the individual 1v1 and then leverage the pressure on the top side to help out elsewhere. You can see gold difference of 14 presented by MasterCard here. JDG still strong on the bottom side of the map, but been pulling ahead finally in the top lane.
Rift Tower being taken as well by Shun at the moment, so they're finally going to be able to get a Rift Tower for themselves, which should help out a lot. Again, a lot of the game plan for BLG is try and crack down side lanes so you can get an advantage and then use the vision you can gain to look for picks. And at the moment, they're just not really getting that opportunity with how JDG have kept this pace even with BLG.
Exactly, but you can see Bin even just kind of proxying here behind the tower. Knight, you know, knowing that the Herald is down, he knows he has to get out of there. He will be fine to just run around. And 369 going to claim a tower on the bottom side at the same time. So Knight is okay to give this up, but they're likely going to take this down. I wonder if they'll just insta-drop Herald for tier 2. Doesn't look like it. They're just going to take their one tower and send Bin down towards bot to actually answer the push for 369.
I'm curious.
Oh, hang on. Oh, aggressive. Forcing the ultimate out from Yagao. Charm coming in, missing now. Just needs to pull away, but ultimate cooldown consumed. We'll be back up before the Infernal Drake is on the table, but maybe they can try to capitalize on that window.
Yeah, I'd love to see BLG now reset, send Yagao up to the top side, push in top, and then immediately try and move in towards mid, because I think the mid lane tower is the crux of like everything that BLG wants to achieve. As soon as you get that, it becomes very easy to start flooding both sides with vision and just bounce back and forth between the lanes. So if you can actually get Yagao to abuse the fact that he has a range advantage over 369 overnight, and even the fact he can hop over a wall and threaten to dive in mid, it becomes really difficult then for Ruler and Missy to hold on to the mid lane turret, as many members of BLG can just show up at an instant.
We've highlighted it a few times. The Ruler, again, the big source of damage. If they can get a summoner spell, an item active, anything off of this player, it's going to make the following fights that much easier. BLG just continuing to walk into fog here with confidence on shadowing Shun as they move in to clear out some of this vision, set up for the next Drake. 1 minute and 30 seconds, so Infernal's on the table. Both sides 1-1 in terms of Drakes overall.
Yep, they want to set up for that Dragon, but they also want to make sure they're clearing out vision and keeping Bin safe, right? All of these wards here are now placed towards the next target on the map, which is likely that bottom tier 1 here for Bin. They already took the top of tier 1, so he moves down towards bot. They set up this kind of line of vision throughout the river. They grab that scuttle. So they're trying to keep Bin safe so that he can actually use his gold lead and really push and try to trade aggressively, you know, with 369 or Knight or whoever is going to come and answer him to try to poke and prod at that tower and really work away at it.
And you can see kind of what we were talking about as well. Yagao having push in top now, you'll have that Rift Herald available for when this Dragon spawns. So a lot of what the plan for BLG is, cool, get control over mid now, watch Yagao just moving down in towards mid turret and just trying to threaten anyone who stays underneath that structure for the moment.
But you can see it's kind of just this battle back and forth because they got some vision, but then again, enemy team comes in, you know, getting this kind of line of vision here across the map. So Bin just has to completely back off. He's no longer allowed to step up, trade with that Renekton. He can't push it on the turret. Also means that for this next Dragon setup, they are going to have TP wards available here. Potentially, Herald's going to get dropped immediately.
Coming in, throwing down the Maokai ultimate just to zone away to stop this Herald from coming through. JDG burning a lot of resources just to secure mid lane here.
They did, but on spent his ult, and that is actually really, really big because that means it's a one-way trip if Alistar goes in. You are not surviving without that ultimate.
Now immediately they're going to collapse the chain. CC is flawless. There's no room for the Ahri to play, but Elk firing back. Massive ulti on the backside of the fight. Elk trying to replicate performance from game 1, coming in bigger, trying to come in badder, but the Renekton instantly onto the back line. They're shredding through. The knockups are there. Knight will get taken down, but 369 standing strong. It has been an Elk versus the world, and Ruler remaining untouched. Half health. Can they turn it back? JDG trading blow for blow with BLG in the bottom river.
I mean, it's a battle between the AD carries there as everyone just slams heads. But still, JDG, more members here, trying to see if they can continue to push forward. Ruler knows he's got the range, doesn't land the zap, and we'll just back away.
Ultimately, an incredibly tense fight, starting very positively for JDG, finding that pick initially, but the fire back from Elk on that massive AoE ultimate starts to even things up. BLG, though, trying to keep the advantage in their favor, getting mid-prio. Looks like they might just turn their attentions right back to Dragon with the TP from Yagao.
Yeah, and we'll see, is JDG going to be able to contest this whatsoever? It doesn't look like it. Ruler heading up towards that top side, so they are just going to seed the Dragon. So this is big. BLG grab another Dragon here for themselves, buying more time for Bin to play through those side lanes. The further back you push the Soul, the more options you have when you're playing with these split push comps. The more ability you have to say, all right, this is not the fight for us. We're going to go sides. We're going to trade for towers. We're going to trade for gold. They're giving themselves options.
I will say, though, it's huge for JDG, the fact that they managed to hold on to the mid lane turret, because Elk just cannot push up this far. You can see he's just super short range, Ruler's going to be able to clear out those waves. It's completely fine. And it makes it very difficult then for BLG to really start to, as you see, put pressure on towards these side lanes because JDG can just swing back and forth between the two. That's why we saw such a heavy investment with TPs and everything else to make sure they can hold on to the mid lane structure. But we are going to hop into this replay, and Yagao just takes a step too far forward. Immediately JDG jump on him, but On gets into the backline and really disrupts a lot of what JDG want to do.
Absolutely, but Elk again over the wall. These Infernum ultimates from the Aphelios are just going crazy. And then Ruler over the wall, lethal tempo stacked up, plus the rocket form. You can see that rage. He's just raining down hell on BLG, pushing them back as BLG do have that extra member, but the reset timings mean, you know, it is them grabbing the dragon. Oh my god. How much of that was just the Infernum ultimate?
How many times are we going to see graphs that look like this series? A lot of that was the Infernum ultimate, if I had to guess. Big damage coming in, but you do see the strengths of both of the premier AD carry options. Aphelios, so much flexibility in terms of what he provides, and Jinx, once she gets lethal tempo stacked, once she gets the resets going, Bin just has to walk away because she's so much faster that you never get to dictate when you're actually trading with the Jinx at that stage of the fight.
Especially with Ghost, which is so powerful in these fights. You know, when you are getting the kills, you're getting the resets, the extension on the Ghost. Ruler is just going to be orb walking perfectly along, taking down so many members.
And here again, fighting for the control of the mid lane. These Sapling's going to be more and more annoying as the game goes on. And On eating a ton of damage here just to clear out this control ward, but not too concerned. The fight for vision remains, and Elk a little bit of extra range courtesy of the Caliber. That's an Elk classic. For the record, he does just randomly throw out the green ult for poke onto enemy AD carry. It happened in their round 4, I think 2 or 3 times.
Hey, I mean, the tower's low, so if you can chunk him out enough, he's saying, maybe I can potentially knock on this tier 1.
Also, realistically, when else are you going to use it? I mean, 3 minutes until the next dragon's up. You're not really going to try and rush down a Baron at this stage of the game as well. So if you do actually manage to get that damage onto Ruler pushing back, but you can get the tower, you could even look for a bit more on the map. So I do like the idea, and I think this is something that LPL teams do a lot, which is just like, hey, what are the little advantages that I can get here? Like, am I able to use this ultimate, or can I blow a summoner spell before a key fight and actually get us a bigger advantage or even a slight advantage over our opponents?
Something that's really important to be aware of. Those little advantages can add up. They can start to matter. JDG coming in to clear the wave here, but the tower might still fall. One more auto. Yagao gonna fish for it. Will grab it in the end. Mid lane tower being broken open, big again for the Fiora. That much more passive control on the map is certainly going to help BLG.
Fiora's getting huge at this stage. Nearly at her second item, Azael was already kind of pointing out, 3 is where you get to see her really have a better time in these team fights. But even at the moment, if Bin ends up in an isolated moment where he can get on towards Ruler, he's going to absolutely decimate this Jinx.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm just going to be interested to see where he goes with third item. A lot of Fioras these days I'm seeing, you know, if they want to go towards team fights on 3, they'll just go towards tankier item. But Ruler, again, getting chunked down here. The Gale Force activation comes through from Elk. But people can go towards things like Frozen Heart or even, you know, GA third if they really want a team fight. And we're going to see if he doesn't go for that, he can go towards things like Allbreaker if he really wants to play forward side.
And Gale Force traded for Gale Force and Ghost there. Again, Dagda, you continue to highlight this, but Elk especially, and I think LPL players in general, very willing to push these trades to try to find these small advantages, even when not a lot is on the line.
And it hasn't always gone well for Elk. I mean, back when he was Jomung, right, we used to call it Jomung madness, where he would just go absolutely nuts and into a lot of his bot lanes a huge amount of the times. It was even to the point where Morgan couldn't use his TP, go back top lane when he was on WE in 2020, because he had to save it to bail out Elk or Jomung at the time, back in that bot side. But it feels like he's kind of leveled up over that time. He's really limit tested over the last 2 years. Exactly, and now he actually has stepped up. And the fact that he used to be so coin flippy into this player that is actually popping the hell off so consistently is super impressive, but might need to do so now.
Double TP's coming in mid, and then they got one on the flank missing now, needing to retreat. Ruler, where's he going to go? Kanavi fishing for the disengage, but it's been on the back line already. They need to get away from this Fiora. The parry now coming out, but Ruler has made it out. The grand challenge to no effect as of yet. The Renekton right into the back line, forcing out so many ultimates. Big damage from the Aphelios, big response from BLG. JDG have to retreat. 369 giving his life, diving in to try to keep the rest of the team ready, but the charm is massive. The parry is huge. The shutdown is there. Yagao looking for a bit of revenge in the mid lane as he finds the triple kill, and BLG will take the fight.
Yagao is going crazy, finds the charm under Ruler. He's not playing cleanse, and he has no chance to survive. BLG crushed the team fight mid lane. They take the tier 2. They're gonna take the Baron as well.
And that's not how these fights are supposed to go. It's supposed to be JDG with the stronger team fight, stepping up to control it, but BLG are coming into these fights so creatively, causing so many issues for JDG, and just like that, it's a Baron for this Fiora to try and continue to take over.
It's so impressive how they play out this team fight. Bin was creating such a zone of threat around the backline. It's like, yes, he jumped in on Ruler, Ruler gets away, but Ruler could never actually really step up in this fight because he's poking and prodding at the frontliners constantly as they step up, immediate double TP. Bin, you're gonna see coming into the back here on that ward, but just watch how he fights. He gets in over onto Ruler. Sure, Ruler is gonna flash away. The parry timing is perfect. Then Bin kiting back in this area, harassing Missing, harassing Kanavi, never really allowing Ruler to step up. You can see as soon as Ruler steps forward, Bin walks forward as well. He's just pushing him back. And so while Ruler and Missing are completely kept out of the fight, Elk is going crazy, Yagao are going crazy. They are free firing and they crush through the rest of the JDG members.
Incredibly well highlighted. That zone of control, so oppressive. Waiting, the second you burn any major cooldown, he can get right into your backline. The second he can get past the Braum or the Maokai, can look for that angle. Yagao coming up clutch as well, clean on the charm. You know, we talk so much about Yagao versus Knight. Yes, they have history, but it's been a pretty Knight-favored 1v1 matchup for quite some time. So good to see these moments where Yagao can step up, can show that he's got what it takes.
Absolutely, right? And he got that Ahri, he got the power pick here. You know, pairing it with the Vi, potentially, you know, not respecting what they could get done. And JDG may be regretting it now because Yagao is in a really strong position. Bin on this Fiora has really been unlocked now at this point in the game. They have the Baron buff, they have multiple dragons, they're in a great spot.
Yeah, I mean, it's been so back and forth between these two mid laners for so long. Yagao kind of struck first in 2020 where he was able to win Spring with JDG, now going up against his former team. But with top esports then fighting back in summer in 2020, it was Knight who was able to kind of take that commanding lead and always been at the forefront of it. But now Yagao on the pick that Knight has been so strong on all split long, trying to show that he is just more than capable of going up against JDG, and who was, I'd imagine his friend, but maybe former friend after this one.
It does feel a bit personal when you leap into the backline and kill the enemy AD carry, but taking our time now to see what the setup is going to be for BLG. What can they actually do with this Baron?
Well, at the very least, you know, they're pushing you through mid lane. They're going to be moving Bin, it looks, over towards mid now as they brought Yagao down towards bot, trying to fish for these charms. It is difficult to really hard commit into this JDG team. You need to be coming at them from multiple angles, and that's why that last fight was so good. It's because JDG exposed themselves to that by committing to that tower mid, allowing the TP flank to come through. So for now, it's going to be about the push for Bin. You know, he's going to be going over towards mid. You can see Kanavi is kind of cheating back and forth between these two lanes, trying to be there to support 369 if he needs it. But I do think Bin, given time, is going to knock down that tier 1 mid.
On the Knight is big, massive damage, now dashing out to safety. Elk firing down, Knight holding on for now. Kanavi off to the side, looking to lock up one. The Ahri now taken out again. No, Yagao going golden, he buys a moment. On the backside, Ruler still standing strong for now, but Bin hasn't even entered the fight yet. JDG being pushed back, slowly but surely.
We're letting it being pushed back, nearly seeing Ruler go forward with the Gale Force to actually get the kill onto Elk, but just not quite able to, so JDG will back away. I do like the idea here coming through from Bin though when it comes towards his third item. The fact he's going towards this GA means that he's going to be able to go very deep into the backline and buy a lot of space for Ruler, and you can see if Ruler isn't able to get the damage down, there's no one else who can.
Absolutely, and at this point in the game, it can be a one team fight game. If you crush a team fight, you know, you have the minion waves, you can end. So it can be absolutely worth just spending your life to keep Ruler out of the fight. Even if you don't kill him, if he's not firing, Elk is going to crush through the rest of those JDG members. So, you know, that is really what they're looking for, but you can see the turnaround possibilities are there. As you called out, Dagda, Ruler was really close to actually taking down Elk. It was On who came in with those peels, I believe, very, very quickly to push Ruler back. And it became dicey on that other side, but you know, one more rocket crit could have been that reset, could have been the kill on Elk, and could have been the turnaround, as we have seen Ruler pull off so many times in his career. You give this guy an inch and he will run you over.
Certainly the case. 3 items now, however, for Elk. Essentially 3 items worth of gold for Ruler, but it looks like he just stopped off on his Zeal for the extra attack speed before completing the BT here. And Bin, 3 items too. Extra tankiness, you highlighted it. Gonna make him that much more of a threat on the backside. It's gonna be all about execution in the fights to come for now. BLG with control of the map, earning it from the Baron, keeping that vision up on the side of JDG's jungle. Still a ways away. It's not soul point for either side. It's just a third Drake, so ultimately, you don't have to die on this hill, but I suspect this will be the arena where we see the next big team fight.
Yeah, it absolutely could be, you know, unless someone thinks that they can get a big advantage through side lane. And Ahri damage, no joke, you know, that's about 30–40% of Knight's health just gone in one combo there. Leandry's Ahri definitely doing some work against a lot of the armor stacking that is being done by Knight.
We're gonna have to see this big clash though, as the Dragon gonna be spawning in just a few moments. I am curious to see if Ruler can actually manage to finish off this BT before he gets into it, because I think that's going to be such a massive boon for him, where he's actually able to get a little bit of healing, especially if you are looking at Yagao and Shun just targeting him, even Bin, to be honest, in these fights as well. But BLG want to try and get this bot lane turret before they go over towards that objective and just keep the pressure on JDG and keep them out of this pocket of vision that they managed to create in this bot side jungle.
Yeah, burning a lot just to keep this control alive, all in pursuit of that third Drake, 22 seconds away. They get the wave pushed in, 4 members strong on the bottom side. Bin in the mid lane as well, 369 just now recalling, so BLG heavily favored to get this objective.
Yeah, Ruler's got to have it with that recall there, yeah. So he has the BT, he grabs some pink wards. We'll see if they feel that they can actually check into this area, because the vision is just dominated in this entire section of the jungle right now. Not going to be able to really do much to push forward. JDG will just have to kind of walk straight through him.
On the backside poking, Bin in the area as well. JDG just trying to collapse onto the bot before the fight even kicks off. They get the stopwatch, they get a bit more space. Bin decides this is not the angle that he wants. The entire team now on the retreat. Alt flash gone from Jun, as well as the active from the Radiant Virtue, but fishing now for a charm over the wall on keeping the fight going. Again, just poking away here, missing at half health. Both sides fishing for any advantage they can get, but Elk already shredding to the objective. 3K getting lower. The Dragon will fall in favor of BLG. Will JDG try to force the fight? Elk stack on the chakrams. They will fade away, but BLG backing off. They know they don't need to fight. They got what they came for.
And that's the big advantage that BLG got when they TP'd into the bot lane, keeping the pressure at night, charmed up, but he's going to be totally fine. As long as BLG were able to keep JDG out of the area, they're going to be totally fine. And now JDG, they invested Maokai ult, they invest the Braum ult. You don't actually have much in the way of follow-up or any way to close the gap, so BLG get to walk out.
Well, I just think Yagao is doing such a good job actually poking and prodding, slowing down that transition from the base through that jungle, because JDG couldn't just rush straight there, right? They had no vision. They had to kind of take their time. And at every step of the way, it felt like Yagao was harassing them, hitting a charm, chunking you down 20, 30, 40% of your health, making you double think, can I actually walk past this brush? Are we going to be able to rush straight to that dragon? And they weren't able to do it. So BLG now on soul point here have bought themselves a lot of time for these item completions. All their carries have their 3 items now.
Yep, and that's the kind of play that we love to see. They spent their teleport just to hold on to that control on the bottom side, then use that control to poke, to hide in Fog of War, and that's the kind of heads-up play we want to be seeing in this best of 5 for BLG. Now setting themselves in a pretty comfortable position. Not only do they have soul point, they have a massive lead, 5K, carries on 3.5 items. Bin getting closer and closer to his 4th, so overall a favorable position, and JDG can't afford any more slip-ups, can't afford to give away any more of these objectives.
It does become incredibly tough though, because nobody can really deal with Bin on the side lane now.
Yeah.
Even, look, he's going towards the Randuins as well. He's just like, look, I know exactly what I need to do in this scenario, but it means that he's going to get full push on bot side. Makes it very difficult with how much control BLG have on the enemy jungle to actually keep the waves pushed out as JDG. And BLG are just going to keep pushing that pressure down until they can slowly creep their vision line forward and then contest the Baron.
And I think the game is just going to come down to one big fight at a team, one big team fight at an objective here. Elk stepping too far forward.
The Gale Force out early, missing, just trying to keep the fight going. Elk in and now sidestep, he has to flash back over the wall. It looks like the Alistar will just be sacrificed, but more than tanky enough to make it out of that one. Charm now coming in, Bin on the bottom side, continuing to keep the pressure, now starting to rotate over. JDG.
They can start this. They can start this for sure. They want to get Bin to respond. They want to draw him in here. JDG are going to commit to the Baron. Here comes the TP.
Full on 5v5, Elk over the wall. He's burned so many resources. He's got no mobility tools left. They need to keep their eyes on the Aphelios, but it's Bin in the darkness. Bin waiting to find that angle into the backline. 5K getting lower. Fiora is in the pit. Fiora is fishing for an angle. 2K. It's getting lower and lower. It's not going to get burned down quite yet. And Ruler for now is uncontested. Yagao in the midst of the entire team. Huge shutdown coming in. And it's Ruler taking over the fight. Yagao running for his life. The zap going to connect. The shutdown is everything. JDG have found the angle. They have found the fight. They have found the shutdown, and they will turn attention towards the jungler before they take the Baron.
In a world of ADCs, one man is king. It is Ruler standing above them all, wiping BLG off the map. JDG find their fight. And Shun, can he look for a steal here? It would be a one-way trip, but he's got no vision, no shot. And JDG wrests control of the game away from BLG.
One world champion to rule them all. Amazing stuff from Ruler in that fight. And you can see how quickly JDG all turned to just make sure Ruler stays standing. They know as long as he's fine, he's going to be okay. And the fact the fact that Elk had to burn his flash already before that Baron was so crucial to that as well.
I mean, the peeling was absolutely perfect. They have one man peeling back onto the Vi. They have another man standing on Yagao in between him. So just watch Ruler in this fight. You'll see, there goes the Vi in. Look at Kanavi. Immediately Twisted advances onto Yagao to block the charm. The Braum goes back to peel the Vi. Everyone collapses on Ruler, knowing that if that dive cannot get through, there's not the sustained damage to actually make it happen. And you can be as fed as you like here on Bin, but there's no making it happen when there is that much CC.
Oh, it's a masterclass, but you're doing it dirty. And that's the thing. Remember, I mean, when you look at players coming into this, like Pays, like Elk, who haven't had that same level of success as players like Guma, players like Ruler, there is always this bar that you have to hit in those moments where you have to prove you can be clutch. And in that fight, Ruler was clutch.
And I just love when they have this amazing huge play, and it's just cool as you like, no reaction. It's like, this may be the day you almost beat Ruler, but for him, it's just another
Tuesday,
Sunday, you know?
Who even said it? Was it M. Bison? Was it Ruler? It's hard to keep track.
It's just a little smirk that gets me every time. Just the corner of the mouth just twitches a little. And then it's back to business as usual. But Dragon up in 15 seconds. And as expected, I think we're going to get a massive fight.
Try harder next time.
Yes, project personality onto him. He's an evil mastermind, yes. I mean, the gold is dead even.
He is a mastermind.
He is a mastermind for sure. At this point, Dragon going to go over again. BLG don't really have to contest this one, nor would they really want to at this stage. The next Dragon will be very much do or die. Infernal could be everything for either side, but again, gold neck and neck. It's really all about teamfight execution and setup. There was a pretty big hole for JDG earlier, but beautiful for them to crawl their way out of it with some very clever fighting.
I mean, one of the toughest parts about this is you actually lost your GA in that fight as Bin, right? So you don't even have that in pocket for this play that we were talking about, trying to dive in onto Ruler and make that trade. As On's now in trouble. Here comes TP.
JDG seeing an angle. They want to try and find it. Knight on the backside. Elk has to be careful, but Bin is there as well. It looks like Alistar is going to be taken out here. On will drop, but it's the TP from Knight and Yagao there. JDG, do they want to keep this going? They still have the Baron buff. 22 seconds, they got one wave. They can at least break down this tier 2.
That's what I was going to say. It depends on how much they can actually get off it as to whether this is worth or not. Try to see if they can at least get onto the mid lane turret. They'd love to crack open the base as well. Shun trying to get into the, looks like in behind them. They know that they don't have a huge amount of vision around here, so may look for something, but may just actually give up their inhibitor instead.
Excellent play at the end of the day for JDG because they are able to break open that inhibitor. Burned a lot just to get the Alistar, but it's really hard for BLG to fire back without that reliable engage tool. Now Ben and Shun on the flank. JDG have to be careful about pushing too far here. Just want to continue to threaten.
Yeah, JDG were trying to force BLG into a 4v5 fight. If BLG bite there, the game ends. You're going to lose that fight. The Nexus is going to fall. So they make the right choice. They seed the inhibitor. They just back it up. You've got to wait for On to be respawned here to try to draw that line in the sand. And it may come here 2.5 minutes. We know the Baron is going to be spawning in 3.5 minutes. Both teams are on 3 dragons, so someone could be getting Soul.
It is going to be very tough, though, for BLG to kind of go for the game plan that they have been, right? GA just completed for Ruler there. He's now full items, absolutely going to be doing so much lifting in these fights. But even when you look at, like, Knight, he's now got the Gargoyle Stone play completed. He's going to be so difficult to try and deal with as well. It looks like the windows of opportunity that BLG had, unfortunately, have started to close. And maybe they can look for some sort of pick on the side lane before everything starts to come up. But even then, that's such a long shot. As long as JDG, with the waves in the position they are, just continue to group and push.
On JDG, don't even really need to respond to sides that much, to be honest, right? They're not really that bothered. As long as they keep some vision out there, as long as it's not been knocking on the door, you can drop some waves at this point in the game because BLG are miles from being able to threaten any sort of an end through sides. So they will just continually play it safe, wait till they have vision on that side of the map, then they move up. You can see there's coverage every time they're clearing out these waves. Ruler and Missing move up towards topside. Kanavi comes in behind. Only then does Knight push out the wave. They're not going to risk anything. So instead of actually pushing bot side at the same time, 369 will just move mid. He'll hold there. They're trying to stay in the same quadrant generally. So if there's any attempt at a pick, they're going to be there to respond.
Certainly are, and at this stage it's so hard now as the map gets more and more blown open. It's harder and harder to find these flank angles, especially when JDG are holding on to mid priority, when JDG are dictating the pace of the game. And while in previous fights you've been able to get creative with your vision, find these flanking TP wards, as JDG continue to pressure, continue to close off more and more of the map to you, it's harder and harder to find the angles that allowed Bin to be successful in some of those fights. Is now potential for a full 5v5 here, fighting over the tier 2. JDG, I think, is kind of threatening, looking to find an angle. It's Bin burning the parry a little bit early. don't think it's going to cost him at this stage. Pretty low cooldown. Knight losing a lot of health, though. JDG have to be careful. Kanavi potentially caught out, but not too concerned quite yet. Queuing back. Arcane Smash, certainly a good start. Jinx ult now coming out. Grand Challenge off to the side. A lot of damage going down. Ben trying to take out Kanavi. Kanavi finding a little bit of CC. He's running for his life. It's a split fight. BLG ready over the wall. Elk, huge damage. Not quite, as it's only connecting on a few. Missing there to body block. The Gale Force, and Ruler just does not quit. This man refuses to lose. Elk, not enough. It's a triple kill. Ruler taking over again in the fight.
Ruler's popping off again, and they can see blood in the water. Yagao will charm 369 for the moment, but he wants to take the game. They want to push us to a game 3, and Yagao is left with his head in his hands as JDG will continue their dominance here.
At the end of the day, JDG found themselves in a deficit, but it's beautiful team fighting, protecting Ruler. On the back of Ruler, they move up to match point.
In back-to-back games, Ruler goes godlike, and JDG reigns supreme in the team fights. They just can't touch this man. He is just too damn good.
And they gave it such a good effort. I mean, BLG, that was such a creative TP flank that we saw in the mid lane. I was like, okay, this is exactly what we need. Now BLG have Baron, now BLG have control. They can continue to go for this, but you give them one fight. And that's all that Ruler needs to turn the tide of this game.
And we've actually seen it in a number of games already. You know, JDG are falling sometimes into bad positions in the game. They're falling behind. You know, even against Golden Guardians, we saw at times, okay, oh, hey, maybe Golden Guardians could do it. You know, they're getting up in gold.
Yeah.
But Ruler's going to say no. It seems like every single time, BLG in an even better position this time around, they had a significant lead. They won some massive team fights. They take a Baron. They get everything you would think that they would potentially need to close this one out. But JDG just see the opportunity to force around a Baron objective. They force out a few cooldowns, and they say, that's all we need. We get that ultimate. We get that flash. We're going to force you to take a 5v5 right now, and we know we're going to win it.
And JDG are a terrifying team to go up against, because as much as BLG have won games and have taken games domestically, there's this aura about JDGs. We see them play more and more, especially against BLG, where it feels like the game is not lost for JDG until the Nexus falls 100%, but BLG can lose games. When BLG are at a deficit, JDG doesn't give them back any space.
And I think it's because they're so willing to just jump on any opportunity that you see. Like in this, or in later on in the game, as it looked like things were going so dire for JDG, like, cool, well, we can find a quick pick onto On. Let's just make sure that we burn the flash on Elk. Make sure that now when we come into this Baron fight, we can set up so well as we want to. Like, it's all about these just very quick moments that they can abuse.
It's been incredible thus far. We'll have to see if BLG can take a same early game advantage and bring it all the way to take us to more games, because for now it is match point for the side of JDG.